Sometimes you just want a pen because it's beautiful. Sometimes it's just beguiling. The way the light catches it at a certain angle, the way it's crafted, the way it feels in your hand, the things it makes you think of, that you associate with it. I think this is that sort of pen. It's interesting. There's a lot to be said about it. There's a lot of good, there's some bad, there's some indifferent. But it's interesting, and it's always nice to open a new chapter, especially with one of my favorite pen brands of all time, Waterman, which I still believe doesn't get the love and respect it deserves, and it is producing some amazing fountain pens in despite of its corporate ownership. So join me today, won't you, as I, Hemingway Jones, guide you through the history of Waterman, the expert fountain pen, and a bit about the Opera of Paris. So right off the bat, I want to thank my good friend Brendan Schmidt of Atlas Stationers for sending me a care package that included this absolutely gorgeous and intriguing fountain pen. So thank you, Brendan, for your support of the channel. I appreciate it. So one of the interesting things about this pen is that it does relate closely to my Waterman Carène Reflections of Paris fountain pen. Now that one has a bit more depth in its cap, but that's not to say that it's better, just that it's different. That gives this sort of ripply wave effect. This one is similar in that it has waves, but this cap is much more polished, much more shiny, and it's really the first thing that grabs you. And that's why I'm speaking about it first. It's beguiling. I almost can't take my eyes off it when I use it. It might be difficult to carry this outside. The sunlight hits it, it would be truly stunning. Gold plating, masterfully done. It's just so polished and captures the light so brilliantly. And I love little beguiling design details that really suck you in. And part of that is, it's becoming more and more difficult for me to rationalize for myself. Super expensive pen purchases approaching and going beyond $1,000 US. This particular pen is around $300. I believe retails around $370, but it's always discounted down a bit here in the United States. $300. Is that a good value proposition? By the end, we will go through that. But boy, from a beauty point of view, from a thing of desire, it has it all. It is stunning, just absolutely captivating. Now, I would expect no less from Waterman, one of my favorite brands. So let's now go through some of the history of Waterman and how it pertains to this expert fountain pen. So Waterman is one of the oldest fountain pen companies, and it was founded not in Paris, but in New York in 1884. And by whom? Louis Edson Waterman, an absolute legend. Now what's interesting about Waterman is that the innovations were about a central idea, that you need to be able to trust your fountain pen. That if you're signing a contract or writing a letter, that you can't have a big splotch of ink in the middle of your page. And that's been their guiding principle from the beginning. And of course, they made some excellent fountain pens we all know and love, like the Waterman 52, 52 and a half, Waterman 5, one of my personal favorites, all the way up through to the Waterman Edson in the 1990s. Now, what's also interesting is that their history with France goes back further than you might imagine. It begins after the First World War, when Jules Fagard was the agent for Waterman in Paris, and by 1926, in the roaring 20s, 100 years ago from the recording of this video, Waterman became semi-autonomous in France, and that's an interesting development. Now fast forward to 1967, and they were opening factories in France to produce these amazing writing instruments. Now today, the company is located in Paris, but there's no flagship store, there's no factory, there's nothing you can really see. It must be a discreet office somewhere. I know, I went in search of it, I did not find it. Now Waterman is owned by Newell Brands now, under its Sanford Writing Instruments line, which also includes Parker. Now it could easily get lost within that sort of umbrella corporate framework, but I will say happily, they're still producing fantastic pens. I refuse to dismiss Waterman. They're just too good and too well priced in this current market for me to turn away from. I just find them eminently fascinating, and I've always liked and appreciated the underdog. So for me, I can be happy with this one brand. There are few brands I could say that about with fountain pens with confidence. Certainly Pilot would be another. But Waterman, wow. What they produce, the way they feel, how they fit into my personal lifestyle just says so much. Now certainly Waterman leans heavy into their Parisian identity, and I feel like that is imbued in the design of every pen that they produce. It has a certain French savoir-faire, if you will. I mean, look at the Corinne, that unique, interesting design. It is so Parisian, but you do see some similar design language here. On the finial here, there is a slight slant that reminds you of the tail of the Waterman Corinne. So I like that there's a corporate design language. That always makes me happy. You see that very strongly with Lamy. So here you'll also see it. Now I said before that there is some similar aesthetics with the Reflections of Paris and this particular pen and line of opera fountain pens. I adore it. This shininess in a way elevates it. I'm really hate to admit it, but I think I prefer this one. I love the shininess. It has that classic Waterman clip that we've seen for many years. In fact, reminds me of one of my first fountain pens that didn't fare well with me, and that was an old Waterman from the early 1990s that sadly I broke in half because I didn't know how to use it yet. And it had a very similar clip to this. So it's bringing back all sorts of nostalgia for me. The rest of the design that I really like is this ring at the back is raised. And that's interesting. It makes it a little bit more tactile. It sort of breaks up the taper and gives you something to sort of hold on to. Now, I suppose that would be where there would be a piston fill knob if it were a piston fill. It's not. It's a cartridge converter pen. Or I should really say it's a cartridge pen, because the one ding that really upsets me about this fountain pen is that they did not include a converter. What an oversight. I mean, especially at $300. Come on, Waterman, sincerely. That is really inexcusable. Now, fortunately, I have a lot of converters lying around, and you probably do too if you're really into fountain pens. I took one off of an old Phileas just to keep it in the family, and let me tell you, the converter in a Phileas is better than most of the converters that are in luxury pens right now. It's well made, nice metal, turns regularly. You know how jumpy modern converters are? They just feel so cheap. This one, which was cheap back in the 90s, is actually very nice. Now I'm probably going off on a converter a little too much here, but I think you understand where I'm coming from. So I'm very happy to have a converter in here. I put in J. Urban Pearl Noir ink because the barrel here is very nice lacquer and it's shiny black like a Steinway piano, and I wanted some black ink to have a conversation with it and with the gold. Black and gold always do so well together, but frankly can be a bit boring, no? You know, how many black and gold pens do we have? Now you can't say this one's boring because few of them have a shiny gold cap like this one, which you can post I am gently sliding it on here because I am a reformed poster. I don't post my pens as much as I once did. Now, there's a few other, I guess I would call this annoying, but there is a bright side to it. The nib, it's stainless steel, but you'd never know it. If I blindfolded you and put this in your hand and you wrote with it, we'll get into how it writes, you wouldn't just leap out and say, that's stainless steel. It has an interesting finish, and we'll talk about it. But the thing that bothers me, and it does, is that it only comes in medium. I personally love medium, but it's amazing that there's not more choices. I get it if they're trying to reduce costs and they're giving you a lot, so they make it one size, but it's going to be very restrictive for many of you that prefer a different nib size. You could certainly get it customized to you after you get it, and I can appreciate that. I will say this medium has some interesting qualities. We'll get into that when we speak about how it writes, but first, I want to talk a little bit more, since I started about design, about what it reminds me of. There was an opera edition that was released by Waterman back in 1985, and this one harkens back to that. But really what I think about is that beautiful grand opera house in Paris, the Palais Garnier, and how absolutely gorgeous and stunning it is, how it just makes perfect backdrop to a night out listening to some incredible music. Now, that particular building is a Second Empire building under the government of Napoleon III. Charles Garnier, the architect, won a competition to be the designer of this incredible building. Construction began in 1861. There were some issues with the Prussian War and whatnot going on, which tends to affect construction and progress. But by 1875, it was finished, and it's one of the grand, ornate, beautiful, stunning opera houses of Europe. I think in how it relates is that that building is such an amazing ornate space. And this is a very ornate pen that still manages to be tasteful. And I think when you have all that ornamentation, that curvilinear space, and yet it still feels beautiful, it's still on a human scale where you want to be there, you want to sit, you want to hear the music, you want to look around at the crowd, how everyone's focused in the little boxes. And it's just amazing to be inside that building. I think it's similar with this kind of dazzling, beguiling, beautiful pen that both guides your thoughts and your thinking while you write with it, but still is a thing unto itself of just unparalleled beauty. Just a really pretty pen. But let's get into some more specifics. I'm going to briefly run down the specs of this fountain pen for you. It's 140 millimeters from tip to bottom. That's 5.5 inches. It's about the perfect size for a fountain pen. If you post it, it's 153 millimeters or 6 inches. Once again, good balance, good proportion, fits in your hand brilliantly. The diameter of the barrel is 12 millimeters. I like that. But more importantly, it tapers down to 9.5 down at the grip. Makes it very comfortable and sort of takes the weight and makes it easy to control. I like that quite a bit. Now, weight is very important as well. This one weighs in at 30 grams on my scale. I think that's a good weight. I'll tell you why. I sort of equate weight with what I buy in a way. Substance feels important. It's not always true. Carbon fiber is very expensive, but it just feels substantial enough that when you hold it, it has real desk presence. But it's not so heavy that you feel as if you need two hands to write with it. So it's just a perfect proportioned, perfectly weighted fountain pen that is a lot of fun to write with and is absolutely beautiful. A quick note on the opera collection. It comes in a hemisphere. which is a very slim pen that I have yet to use. So I'm not going to talk about it at all. I don't talk about pens that I haven't used, except to say it's slim because I've seen a picture of it. And then of course this Expert, which I have used and I am enjoying, minus those caveats I've already mentioned, and maybe a few others by the time we're through. The Koren, which I haven't seen, but I imagine is absolutely beautiful if it's anything like my Reflections of Paris. And of course, the Exception. So for me, it's the Koren or the Expert. Oh, and I suppose they also come in ballpoint and rollerball versions. I have a rollerball Expert of a different type. I use it at work and I use it for forms. So that's kind of a nice option too. So I know I've spoken a lot about the aesthetics. I think the aesthetics are really strong on a pen like this. I love the W on the nib. It's pretty comforting. I love the gold bands. I love how there's a little bit of a ridge here to keep your fingers from sliding onto that nib. You feel a lot of control. It's just a really nice, beautiful aesthetic pen. Very nice taper, very nice polish, fit and finish. They make these by hand in France, which is nice if that's important to you. I love that there is a ring of gold around the clip to prevent it from chipping. And then there's a bit of lacquer too, where it goes gold, black, gold. Exquisite. So well done. Of course, back to black. Back to black, that's a song. In the finial. So well done. Just beautiful. And aesthetics matter to me, even when I write. Sure, I could write with any pen, even a Bic pen. But I love looking down at something beautiful when I'm crafting something, especially something creative, or a letter, or at work. This is such a brilliant pen for work. It's not ridiculously expensive like a Mont Blanc, where if you leave it on your desk, you're worried and maybe you should run back and have a look and make sure it's still there. I would probably do that with this though, to be honest. It's really beautiful and it's shiny. It's like a lure. So you have to be careful. It's really, really beautiful. But okay, the most important thing beyond aesthetics, they tell me, is how it writes. So let me share with you my writing experience with this pen. First off, even unposted, it feels beautiful in my hand. Nice sense of balance, easy to control, that familiar Waterman feel. You post it, it's not so back heavy that having it on there changes its balance significantly. For me, giving up posting, I often feel as if my nib is lifting or wants to, that there's a bit of that fulcrum right at my perlicule that is pulling the nib up because I don't post. In this case, it seats far enough that the balance changes, but it doesn't throw off my feeling of control. And more importantly, it posts with a very satisfying click. I like that. It's a good noise. It's definitive. It means business. It's letting you know it's posted. There's no sort of middle ground. It's the same with the cap. It's a click cap, which I love. Snap cap, but it's really clicky. So let's call it a click cap. Ah, it's good clicks. It's really good. So you can get to this nib quickly for taking notes, for signing your name, all those important things. Now for me, that opens up a world of possibilities. It elevates it as a fantastic business pen. This is one I would take to my office always, have it with me all the time. It's going to suit a fast-paced business environment, but it also works well when I'm going to a museum or whatnot. I'm often writing, taking notes when I'm out somewhere, standing up. And it's kind of hard if you're standing up and you have a pocket notebook in your hand and you need to unscrew your pen. You need another hand. And I'm like, hey honey, can you hold this? Or I'm shoving it in my back pocket, something like that. But if I can just uncap it quickly and get to business, that's fantastic. That's a huge plus. I'm really into noises lately. I don't know if you noticed that, but this makes some good ones. But wow, this is a stunner. It's a very beautiful pen. Now, let's talk about that medium nib, and it's easy because it only comes in medium. It's cut, interestingly. Do you know those nibs that almost feel like they have a bit of an angle to the writing surface? That it's not just a needle that's pointing to the paper, but it almost feels like it's bent up a bit, and in that it's sort of square. Are you following me? So when you write with it and you try to stay disciplined, and anything disciplined is very difficult for me, but let's share this for a second, and you stay parallel to the line, you get a lot of character in your writing. You get a bit of line variation just in the way the nib is cut and the way you can trowel the ink along that line. Now, you can't always pick that up in camera. The one thing that's kind of a shame is that to see it, you almost need to be further out, and if you're further out, you lose it a little bit on the smaller screens, even on the bigger screens. Seeing it in person really shows it. If you show it close up, it's hard to differentiate from the thinner lines if you're only talking about a millimeter or so. But a millimeter makes a lot of difference in your writing. Now, I love that about this. I love the cut of this medium pen. And most of all, and this is very important to me, I love the Waterman trademark smoothness. You get that at every price point with this pen. We'll speak about value in a minute, but I challenge you to tell that this is a stainless steel nib. It's another one of those, and believe me, I'm making a list of fountain pens with steel nibs that express themselves almost like a gold nib. And I know many of you say there really is no difference. There, in my opinion, is a difference between a gold nib and a steel nib when the gold is being used to express something a bit different. Something like a Pilot Urushi nib that has some give to it, or a heritage nib from Mont Blanc. These use that quality of gold to do something a bit different. Well, this just does a brilliant job of making stainless steel feel that much more luxurious. And I am moving away more and more from outrageously expensive pens to marginally expensive pens, let's be honest. But I do feel like you get something for your dollar. So perhaps that's the best transition I could hope for to the value proposition of this Waterman Expert Opera Edition fountain pen. Let's discuss the value proposition of the Waterman Expert Opera Edition. Wow, value propositions. I'll be honest, it's a lot easier for me to rationalize why I'm spending money than to explain it, but let me do my best. So this is around $290, down from its $366 suggested retail price. With that, you do get a lacquer pen with some gold plating. It's very pretty, but it's a steel nib, so keep that in mind. Now, where this differs from some other pens in a similar price point, take Esterbrook for example, their pens are also around that range. They also have steel nibs. So this one is an in-house nib. Waterman makes their own nibs. I like that. It's also a fantastic nib, but it only comes in medium. So that could be an issue. It does have some materials on it like gold, but probably enough gold here that if you rubbed it vigorously with a jeweler's cloth, it might go away, but I'm not going to do that to test it. Where it is now and how it is now, it's really stunning and beautiful. So I think it's fairly priced, but I'm not going to say it's a huge bargain. Now, if you were to get a different model, is around 180 US dollars, perhaps that would be more of a compelling value proposition for you. In fact, that's a fantastic deal for a pen like that. But this particular one, it's beautiful, it's beguiling, it writes fantastic. It reminds me of those beautiful ornate spaces in Paris that are almost over the top, those Haussmann buildings. It just manages to pull it off, to be beautiful, beguiling, a fantastic writer. So I think I'd rather spend $300 for a pen like this that I can carry with me confidently, use in my personal life, use in my business life, and stay away from even more expensive fountain pens with glacier stars instead of this really beautiful cursive W on its finial. I just think this is kind of the way to go. I think this is a comforting pen. It's a pen that can represent you well, regardless of where you are in life and what you're doing. I mean, all fountain pens are luxury, really, from a Lamy Safari all the way up to the most expensive pens out there. But boy, when you do spend money, it makes all the difference. And this, it's quite beautiful, and I like it. But let me know what you think. I'd love to hear in the comments your take on the Waterman Expert in any of its iterations, and specifically the Opera. It's a pretty pen. So if you've reached this point in this video, I do ask one thing of you, and that is to please subscribe. I'd love to have you on this journey with me. I go to some amazing places, and I'd love to have you along. And if you want to help the channel even more, there is membership. You can hit the join button. I'd love to see you behind the scenes. And for Illuminati and Cognoscenti members, we have a pen pal group going strong, and you could write a letter with one of your amazing pen and ink combinations. So I'd love to have you there. I make new videos all the time, and I have a live show as well. So I can promise you, we will see each other again, perhaps at the Opera, but certainly further up the road. So please do take care of yourself, and thanks for watching.